It should be that button there. Okay. Hello, you. My name's Jonti.
And I'm Brandon, also known as B Squared, and this is This Week in Ink.
Each week, we'll be wading through the Inklands to bring you the news and the views on all things Lorcana.
We have weekly features such as Main Street Market Watch and You Made Me Ink.
And we'll be discussing the latest topics and taking opinions from the live chat. Hello, live chat!
So without further ado, we are going to see what's new this week in Ink. Actually, starting with a little bit of Magic the Gathering news.
I know, you wouldn't even think that this is a Lorcana show, would you? Because we are starting with Magic the Gathering. And I haven't got the right window open, so bear with me. It threw me off how cheesy the hello live chat thing sounded in real life. Like, I knew it was going to be pretty bad, but it was even cheesier than that. All right. Should be that one. There we go. Cool. Yes. So this dropped like tonight, like a few hours ago now, I guess. So it's about as breaking news as this show is ever going to get, I reckon. Mm-hmm. And you're coming into this pretty blind, right? Because you're not really a Magic player.
Right. I'm familiar with Magic, but I don't really play much of it. I watched a little bit of it.
So I actually come from Lorcana, from Magic for the most part. So, and I'm a big fan of it. Honestly, the game itself is great. I'm not the biggest fan, though, of how it's been going in the last few years. And especially regarding this, what they call Universes Beyond, which is basically their tie-in series, their IP series. Have you heard of any of them, like on the fringes? Have any of them made it to you?
You mean like the universes stuff?
Yeah.
Universes Beyond? Yeah, I mean like Lord of the Rings was really huge, right? Was that one of them? And then like Doctor Who, I know that was the most recent one.
Yeah, so Doctor Who was like a week ago, honestly. If that, maybe 2 weeks ago now. And since the Doctor Who release, we've already had reveals for cards from a Fallout set based on the Fallout video games. They're coming sometime early next year. And then they've already announced that we're getting an Assassin's Creed set as well, based on those video games. And then today, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because they've announced that they're doing a Marvel collaboration. And I'm sure most people here know that Marvel is owned by the mouse. Marvel is owned by Disney. So I thought it was interesting, at least to mention it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting because really ever since we've known about Lorcana, there's been a big debate on, what IPs Disney plan on bringing into the game. Some people would like to see Marvel and Star Wars and even Pixar, and some people would like it to just kind of stay Disney.
Which some people are you?
So I personally don't want to see Marvel or Star Wars unless we see Disney characters cosplaying as Marvel or Star Wars characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't want to see Luke Skywalker, but you're happy with Mickey Mouse holding a lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Not so much because I don't like those IPs. I actually really like both of them. Mm-hmm. But I just I don't know. I feel like Pixar would be okay, but the vibe around Disney Lorcana right now, I really like the, I don't know, there's a lot of nostalgia that comes with it. And even the art style is very like storybook. And I definitely think that Marvel and Star Wars could be done well in that medium. But I don't know, it would start to feel a little bit weird when Darth Vader is fighting, Brother Bear or, some Disney IP.
Yeah,
at least to me.
I kind of agree. Sunscorch in the chat there says, I'm of the opinion that Pixar has a place in Lorcana, but Star Wars and Marvels don't really fit. That's how I feel about it, honestly. I would go as far as saying that most people these days, like unless you're a fan, like would consider yourself a Disney and Pixar fan, I don't think most people these days really know the difference anymore between Disney and Pixar. Like I kind of think they just all kind of lump them into one. I mean, really now the only real difference is the Pixar ones don't usually have characters singing. Like that's pretty much the only difference there, right? Like animation style is very similar, level of polish is very similar. Disney movies are usually musicals, and Pixar movies are usually not, and that's kind of it, really. So I don't think people would even blink if Pixar came. Honestly, no. I think people consider Tangled and Coco in the same sort of breath.
Yeah, and like we even see crossover in other movies, right? Like in Wreck-It Ralph, isn't I don't remember the princess's name, but the girl from Brave, isn't she like in the picture with all the princesses in the one room? But yeah, Brave is a Pixar film.
Yeah, I think she might even. She might even be canonically a princess. I'm not sure about that actually. Merida?
Yes, Merida. That's what it is.
Like she might even be actually a Disney princess. I'm not 100% sure on that one though. But no, I have no real issue with Pixar. It's more of a when than an if. But I do, Marvel and Star Wars, I still think are out there. And don't get us wrong, we're not saying that this article proves we're never getting Marvel, honestly.
No.
Because that's not how licensing works, right? It's all of this stuff is available to the highest bidder. And for the most part, Disney, have kept Marvel, Star Wars, and sort of Disney, classic Disney, relatively separated, right? Like we didn't see Iron Man and Darth Vader rock up in that Once Upon a Studio from the other day, right? They're still very happy to keep animation, Disney animation, into its own little bubble. But never say never. I just think if anything, this tells us we probably won't see Marvel in the next year because you wouldn't want to go up against it, right?
Right.
But the last thing I'll say on this is, however you really feel about it, it's basically going to be a money printing machine. Magic the Gathering Marvel will just, there's no end. It's going to be the exact same as Lorcana. Stores aren't going to be able to get enough of this, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think especially for Magic, because like, isn't there another Marvel card game that's either already out or coming out? I know there's Marvel Snap that's not like it's digital, but
there's Marvel Champions, which is
I think that's what I'm thinking about.
Which is a like what they call a what's the term for it?
Is it a living card game?
So living card game is like a copyrighted term from from Fantasy Flight Games. There's another term that's a bit more of a general one, but yes, basically it's not a trading card game in as much as there's no randomized packs. You know what you're buying when you buy it, but each time it comes out with an expansion, it'll work with the older ones. Never played it myself, but yeah, he's consistently out there making stuff. And then obviously, Snap is a thing. And then looking at Star Wars, there's Unlimited coming next year, right? So I think that's more of an interesting one to watch, honestly, because Magic is so big that it's almost in another tier, really. From, you know what I mean? You just kind of have to let it do what it's doing, and the only thing that's ever really going to affect it is itself, I think.
Right.
I think Lorcana should be watching Unlimited very closely because it's a much closer mirror, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
I would agree. I've never, I might get canceled for this. I've never watched
hold on, let me get ready to kick you off the stream. Hold on, let me get ready to
I've never watched or read Lord of the Rings, and I had so much fun just hopping onto Arena and like trying Lord of the Rings stuff. And so I can imagine that, like, you know, even just people that like Doctor Who or like Marvel or things similar to that, you know, would have reason to pick this up just because, you know, it'd be fun to see and collect.
Yeah, 100%. And I will tell you now, you are a safe space here because I have also never watched or read Lord of the Rings. That's a lie, actually. Recently, because everyone I work with at the game store hasn't shut up about it, especially with this Magic collaboration, I watched the first movie, and it took me like 3 sittings to get through it. I found it so slow and boring, and I just didn't get it. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, which I'm sure a lot of you probably are. It wasn't for me.
we just lost half of our viewers.
Oh, there they go. Bye. Thanks for stopping. All right, moving on. We have a bit of other sort of breaking news, I guess.
Yes, I would call this breaking news for sure. We have a new card revealed just today called Bippity Boppity Boo. It is it's a 3-cost emerald uninkable rare card, action card, song card as well that says
it's all of the things.
It's all of them. Return chosen character of yours to your hand to play another character with the same cost or less for free.
Oof.
How do you feel about this one?
I do declare this is a hell of a card, and
yeah,
I will say that it needed a bit of clarification. Luckily, we got it before pressing going live, because I was really worried that we wouldn't have a ruling on this.
When we each thought it was something different too.
Yeah, well, I read it. I don't want to say correctly, because without knowing, my reading was just as sort of believable as yours.
Well, yours was the more accurate one.
But so I was under the impression that as soon as a card returns to your hand, it is no longer in a state of existence and therefore can be classed as another card. But I won't lie, that's only because that's how Magic does it, which isn't a good way to rule something, honestly, because Lorcana isn't Magic and it doesn't work that way. So it's, but that's just how I assumed it is, because it becomes unknown, therefore it's no longer the same instance of the card. And that's the same reason that if you replay something, it doesn't come out with the damage still on it, or whatever else have you, or if you replay it, it's no longer reckless or anything like that. All of the states are removed from it. So yes, even though this says another character, you can use it to replay the card that you bounce back into your hand.
It's essentially like a flicker mechanic, right?
Yeah, a blink or a flicker, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah, blink is more what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it's the same. They're basically interchangeable. I think technically flicker it comes back at the end of the turn, whereas blink it's more of an instant. So this is neither, honestly, because in both of those situations you can't do anything other than bring it up and put it down. This is actually better in many ways, because you can, if you wish to, play something else. So I think we're getting stuck in the weeds a little bit, though. If we just go back to what this card is letting you do, for free if you sing it, or for three if not, you can return something to your hand and then either play it again or play something else of the same cost or less. Can we go over a couple of examples as to what this would be good to play with?
Yeah. So any enter the battlefield effect is great with this card. The one that I immediately thought of was Dragon Maleficent and Spirit of Winter Elsa are so annoying for me, because I play something like hoping to come back and then they just slam the card down and ruin my day. So not only can they just play those cards normally, but for 3 extra ink, they can do it again. That's another card, but they can replay those cards and essentially do the same thing. So with Dragon Maleficent, they could banish 2 cards instead of just 1. Or with Elsa Spirit of Winter, they could exert 4 of my characters on board, and all 4 of those characters can't ready the next turn.
That's kind of gross.
Yeah, like it makes me, when I found out that this could be the exact same card, because I didn't care either way, but I was like, man, this card's going to be like a menace if you can just replay the same card. And when I found that out, I just like, this makes me sick. Like this is going to be a beast of a card to play with all of the different effects that you can do. Not only that, like any shift characters are looking at this card too, because if you can shift a character out really early, then that's a more expensive card. Like, let's say Rockstar Stitch is a 5-cost card, right?
Yeah.
If you can shift out Rockstar Stitch early on turn 3, well, then you can just use Bippity Boppity Boo and play a different 5-cost character that maybe is a little bit stronger or has better effects or has
more
a enter
useful
the
for you
battlefield
in
effect.
that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and just get it out way earlier than normal. And we had stuff kind of like that with Just in Time.
Yeah,
but
it's a slightly more complicated Just in Time, but situationally it could be better because not only are you putting something else, you're also going to be picking up the 2 cards that are shifted as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they do separate back into 2 cards once they're in your hand. So even just something like getting Stitch Rockstar out, bouncing him back, you've replaying him without the new dog under him. It then gives you a new dog next turn to put out and exert and get the draw off him. So I don't know whether that's necessarily a great tempo move.
I think it's okay because one of the things that I hear people talk about with shift characters is sometimes people don't realize that certain trades are kind of actually like a 2-for-1. Like you're committing a lot of resources to the card, right? Because you have the card under it, then the card on top, and like this would allow you to play the card, shift the character, bounce both of the cards back in hand, and then play the character again. And now that card that was on the bottom that people were talking about, the 2-for-1, like the Stitch New Dog, for example, you play him on turn 1 or turn before you want to play Stitch, and he's really only there so that you can shift Stitch out early, and now you have the extra New Dog in hand, you can throw him in the inkwell. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
Now,
it's going to help
maybe
towards your ink.
Yeah, like he gained you a couple lore, maybe he took something out, and now he's going into your inkwell. Like that's a lot of value,
Yeah. Hobbies and Happiness says uninkable bad card. Oh, hi Jim. It is worth mentioning though, another uninkable emerald action, right? Like there are so many now. This one I think it's perfectly acceptable that it's uninkable, honestly. Like it makes total sense. But I still think this is best emerald action.
Yes, like I think that for me at least, this is the scariest Rise of the Floodborn card we've seen so far.
I think so as well. Yeah, this card is crazy, and I think it's. I think there are decks. Somebody in the Discord, I forget who it was, and even if I knew, I probably wouldn't call them out. But somebody in the Discord was like, "I don't know about this card. I don't know whether this will see play." And I'm like, decks are going to be built around this card. Like there are people currently looking for good ETBs that are going to be shifted out or played out. As first to 20 there says in the chat, every ETB from here on out will have us coming back and looking at this card again. And exactly that. Yeah. All right. So our opening segment that we said would take 5 minutes has got us 20 minutes in. So. Should we move on to the rest of the news this week?
Yeah. So, or do you want to go on to more cards, or just?
Yeah, I think we'll carry on. So we pushed that one up just because it was brand new. But what we'll be doing here, at least while we're in spoiler season, is basically just having an overview of the cards that have come out since last episode. I know this is our first one, so we're just going to look at the stuff over the last 7 days. But normally, we will look over them.
We'll go over every Rise of the Floodborn card revealed so far.
Yeah, so strap in. The doors are locked.
We had a fun little thing happen in the Lorcana HQ Discord where a lot of these cards get revealed. Team Lorcana showed us this battle that was going on between Merlin and Madame Mim that they've been having over the course of a couple of days, revealing a bunch of Merlin and Madame Mim cards. A lot of them are bounce synergistic. The first one is Merlin Squirrel. Merlin Squirrel is a inkable 2-cost amber card with 2 strength, 1 willpower, and 1 lore. He says when you play this character and he leaves play, look at the top card of your deck, put it either on top or on the bottom of your deck.
Mm-hmm.
So
amethyst. You
what did I say?
Amber.
Okay, amethyst. My bad.
Otherwise, you're smashing it. This is fine. It's arguably one of the weaker of the bunch, I think. Although I will caveat all of these Merlin and Mim reveals with the fact that I'm too smooth brain to really figure all of these out without actually sitting down and playing with them, I think, honestly, because because they all care so much about each other and what they want to do and the order you're going to do them in and stuff. I think it's quite difficult actually to just look at this as a single card and say whether or not it's good. But out of the Merlins that do something as they come in and come out, I would say scrying is one of the weaker things, personally.
Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier today, and I was kind of like, would I just rather play Yzma and then like quest with Yzma, do the scry, and then bounce Yzma instead?
Yeah,
Of Squirrel.
or like, does this overtake Cauldron with similar kind of job at a similar kind of cost?
Yeah, I mean it's inkable. It has that going for it, but I don't know if it overtakes Cauldron.
Yeah. So it's fine. It's doing what Merlin wants to do, obviously, but I think it's one of the weaker of the bunch that we got. Next up, Madam Mim. She's a 2-costed Ingable 3/3 for 1 lore in Amethyst. Madam Mim Snake, Storyborn villain sorcerer with Just You Wait. When you play this character, banish her or return another chosen character of yours to your hand. An uncommon. So this is the other half of the engine, right? So this, which I think is interesting because this is thematically in the movie and also how they've revealed these cards. It's been like, oh, they're fighting against each other, but actually no, they actually both want to be on your side of the board and helping each other out, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting take thematically on that story, mainly because, like, although in the game mechanics, like, they're not fighting each other, I'd like to imagine when they're getting bounced over and over again, that's them, like, running from each other, like, feuding or whatever. So I think it's kind of fun. I've seen some people call the bounce deck already as like bounce solitaire because it's just going to be you like playing your cards and picking them up and your opponent just kind of watching you do stuff. So I think that's kind of a fun little thematic thing. Like, although it's not Merlin on one side of the board and Madame Mim on the other, they're kind of like chasing each other away.
And it, like you say, it's in the if you don't know Sword and Stone, they have this big battle at the end, but the battle is that they shapeshift. And it's very similar to, I'm pretty sure Neil Gaiman ripped it off in The Sandman, where Sandman fights Lucifer. That's obviously a bit of a darker version, but in this, it is very much, it's like he's a rabbit, so she becomes a fox, and then he becomes something that, I can't remember what it is, but it's like, she's a snake, he's a mouse, she's an elephant, and then he becomes a mouse because mice scare elephants, and then she turns into a snake because snake eats mice, and it's kind of like a rock paper scissors all the way up, basically. And I suppose as thematically this works because the other option would be to have a billion Floodborns that could only shift onto a certain version. You know what I mean? So like crab can go onto goat, and goat can go onto, you know what I mean? Like that. That's obviously not going to happen. So I think the way they've done it is actually pretty solid. As far as the card goes, I think this is really good. I think it probably does obviously see play in this new bounce deck we've got. I think this also goes really well into a Rockstar Stitch deck.
Yeah, I agree too. I think like for 2 ink, having a 3/3 on board, and being able to bounce something and potentially getting one of those triggers off, I think is actually a pretty good card. Like out of the bounce cards that we've seen so far, this is one of the more solid ones that I wouldn't be mad about running in the deck for sure. And like you said, in the Stitch Rockstar deck, I think it definitely has a place there.
Yeah. Well, it's because she's not going to care whether or not she's exerted when she comes out, right? So you play something exerted, draw the card, put her down as well, exerted, bounce the other thing back already. You're instantly getting value that way. Do we know whether or not would the Stitch Rockstar see her if you banished her? Does that make sense?
I think so. Well, so I'm not one of the like deep rules people who really know everything about this game. All I keep hearing is marbles, or like a bag of marbles or something, and how the game works. But reading the text, it says when you play this character and then like do X or Y. Yeah. So I imagine like you play her, so she's out, she's played, Stitch sees her. And I don't know if there's any interruption between, okay, now I'll exert her and draw a card, and then she gets banished, or if you have to complete the full Madam Mim part before you can actually like do the other thing.
Yeah.
Because I would think I'd have to look at Simba, because the Steel Simba, I think you can choose whether you want to look at a card and discard a card and then exert him and draw a card, or if I guess you would just be ignoring
because
the first part.
you can stack those however you like, right? Yeah, you can stack those however you like. I suppose the thing that matters here is whether or not what play means, right? Because and I'll ask it. I'm going to probably end up saying this every week. Lorcana, if you're watching, we need comprehensive rules, please, because that I should be able to go and find paragraph 6, part 2b, play, and then a description of what the word play means in this game, because that's the difference, right? Because in Magic, for instance, there is a difference between cast and play. Like they are two different words and they mean two different things, and I can go and get a definition of each of them, and that's what we need to do here. Is play hitting the board and letting everything that would happen when it hits the board happen, even if it's then banished? That's what we need to know. And some of us can say, well, yes, of course it is, and some of us can say, well, actually, no, of course it isn't. But we don't. It doesn't matter what we all think. And I've had this argument today with Bippity Boppity Boo. It doesn't matter whether we think it reads one way or another. Yeah, it matters what Ryan and Steve and their team think, right? Yeah exactly. So yes, I would like to know that, but still, a niche use case anyway. This is just a good body that bounces something back, and the people who are underrating these cards, I think it's because they don't quite understand the power of actually putting something back in your hand. Like it sounds on the face of it like a negative tempo shift, but it's not. It can be really good.
Yeah, I mean, any ETB effect, you can bounce your hand, play it again, get that again. But I mean, even in like the Citroxstar deck, playing a Lilo on 1, getting to quest Lilo for 2 lore, rather than her being banished by something the next turn, being able to bounce her to your hand to play at a later, more convenient time, or anything is better than her just sitting on the board.
The perfect hand is Lilo into Simba, but this gives you another 4 cards in the deck that can come down after Lilo and give you good things, right?
Yeah.
So Cabled's telling us, and I'm happy to believe Cabled, by the way, because if anyone knows the rules games, it's Cabled. Playing a card just means taking it from your hand and putting it face up on the table. Each card has an ink cost in the hexagon in the upper left corner. To play the card, you must exert that many cards in your inkwell. So by that definition, then its face up on the table. I think Stitch would see it, and you get the ability, so that's fine. But yes, otherwise, Madam Mim's great. We move on.
Yep. So next card is another Merlin card. It's Merlin Crab. He's a inkable 3-cost character with 3 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore. Has the ability Ready or Not that says when you play this character and when he leaves play, chosen character gains Challenger +3 this turn, which means they get an extra 3 strength when challenging. And I'll be honest, this is an okay card. Like it fits in a bounce theme deck if you want it, but I mean, I don't know, the combat trick type cards didn't see a lot of play in the first chapter. We saw Meg coming in, comboing with Olaf there in an Emerald Amethyst list sort of towards the end, but that was pretty much it. So I don't know that this card's going to be like spectacular or anything.
I'll be honest with
maybe
you,
you put it in a bounce deck.
When I said the squirrel was the weakest one, I'd forgot about this one. This is the weakest one. I would much rather take a look at the top of my deck than a Challenger +3. You're right. I don't think the combat tricks are particularly strong in this deck because of how little sort of instant interaction there is. They're just so telegraphed. You're right. Meg, and to a lesser extent, Phila TTs saw some fringe play in some decks, but I think even in a bounce deck, there's something else you're running in this slot, I think. First 20 says, I think Crab is going to be one of those cards that doesn't seem good, but then it will be a good counter to a meta deck at some point. And yeah, maybe. And I suppose being able to play it and bounce it and give something +6 seems nice.
Yeah.
But you've got to have something else on board Challenger plus 3 is never a bad thing. No, it isn't, Rooster, but it's purely an opportunity cost issue I have with this. Like, what else am I putting in the 3 slot that this is taking up from? This is in a friends on the other side slot.
Yeah, well, and kind of like you said, between like Squirrel and Merlin, it's like at any point in the game, looking at the top card and figuring out if I want it there or not is valuable. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of game states where giving something extra challenger is meaningless, at least for that part of the game. You know, you're not looking to challenge in anything.
Yeah, it's got a good ceiling, but its floor is pretty low. Its floor is that it's just a useless ability. Yeah. But it's when the crab enters play, you have to quest with support, one less step. Yeah, it's probably slightly better than support, but I don't think support's very good either. So,
the Illuminators are saying we're getting a little crabby about this reveal, so we might want to move on to the next one.
Solid punnage. Next up, 2-costed uninkable 2/2 for 1 lore in Ruby, Lady Tremaine, overbearing matriarch. A storyborn villain with the ability not for you. When you play this character, each opponent with more lore than you loses 1 lore. It's rubbish, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. It's just a worse street rat, and it's not a good card.
Yeah, people have said maybe there's a Floodborn coming, but even if there's a Floodborn Lady Tremaine, she'd have to be really good to still be run over just normal Ruby 11 stuff that essentially does the same thing.
Yeah, we've seen 204 cards. Well, we've played with 204 cards properly.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any Floodborn that makes a average target playable because of it. Like Mickeys don't get played so the Artful Rogue can come out. A lot of Spirit of Winter players don't
even run,
right?
Yeah.
So because what she's shifting onto isn't currently that great. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a bad card. We'll move on. You can take the next one. We're back to the wizard fights after that short interval.
Yeah, just a short interruption from Lady Tremaine there.
Just rocks up and went, it's not clean off again.
We have a inkable 4-cost, 4 strength 3 willpower Merlin goat with 1 lore that has an ability that says "Here I come" when you play this character, and when he leaves play, gain 1 lore. I think this is like what you are playing towards in your bounce deck. You're trying to bounce this thing over and over. Yeah, a really, really great card, especially for bounce. Super fun to play, I think, too. Maybe not for your opponent, but like trying to see how many times I can play goat and bounce him back up and do that in 1 turn. It's just going to be super, super fun. I love this card.
It's huge. This is the $5 uncommon, I think. Like we had, like Flim was your $5 uncommon. This is easily a $5 uncommon. This is a great card. Cards like this make me realize I do not understand the rarity rating of cards in Lorcana because I don't know why this is only uncommon.
It makes me wonder if they just purposefully put like a super powerful card in a common or uncommon slot, just because that's what they're doing. We saw it with Flynn Rider and a couple others, and
a load of stapley stuff, which I'm really happy is at lower rarity. But like I said before, like things like Friends on the Other Side. A lot of the steel removal is all really super low. Like Smash, I think, is an uncommon. It's all. There's a lot of good stuff in the uncommon slot. But this is the GOAT. I know it's a stupid gag, but it really is. This is such a good card. Like even without the ability, it's not a terrible stat line. But it goes in a deck that wants to play it. It pops off with Arthur that we're going to look at in a moment. It kind of pops off with Bippity Boppity Boo. So Emerald Amethyst is the bounce deck, right? Like we're pretty safe on zoning into that now because we've already had. What's the other? Oh, it's called bounce, isn't it?
It's called
So this is great. This is. I can't wait to play with this card. It's going to be really fun. Next up, 4-costed inkable 3/3 for 3 lore in Sapphire. Prince Charming, heir to the throne. Sapphire hands, it's fine.
Yeah, fun card. I'll be interested to see if it's played in any Sapphire Emerald decks that
Yeah,
already
like
run
like
Hans.
Hans sees play currently, but I do wonder whether it's just because we haven't got anything else at the minute. Like.
When also in Sapphire, a lot of times Mickey comes down on 3 and you just
Mhm.
jump to 5 anyway.
Yeah.
So like this being a 4 cost is kind of.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I actually took the Detective Mickey out. So one of my main decks is Emerald Sapphire, like a high 5 deck. So it just sort of caps out at 5 lore. And I actually took out my Detective Mickeys that I was running in that because it did just that. It can just completely ended up missing the 4 drops. And I was running Hans. What else is in the 4 drop slot in that deck? I can't think there, but this will be another one where you just kind of you end up just jumping past it, and then at that point, you've got 3 5 drops in your hand, and you're never going back to your 4 drops, right? And you're never inking them, so they end up kind of just sort of being dead in your hands. And this could have the same problem. Maybe there's somewhere else he goes, who knows? And he kind of screams Floodborn target to me as well. Honestly, I feel like a big old Prince Charming's coming that goes onto him.
That'd be fun.
But otherwise, yeah, he's fine, I guess.
Yep. So next card is Grand Duke, King's Advisor. It's an amber inkable 2-cost card with 2 strength, 2 willpower, and 1 lore. He has an ability called Yes, Your Majesty that lets your princess, prince, queen, and king characters gain an extra strength. I'm actually kind of interested in this card. I know that like Amber Steel, some versions of Amber Steel run a lot of princesses and maybe more princes too. And like, Moana and Rapunzel, some of those pretty good, especially Rapunzel, Amber cards. Their biggest downfall is not having any strength. So like if you need to trade into stuff, you can't. And I don't know that 2 strength versus 1 strength is really going to make the difference, but it might. I'll be interested to see if it gets slotted into any of those decks for that reason.
I think Steel Princesses look like they're coming on quite a bit in set 2 as well, with that Tiana and the Cinderellas that we've seen. So yeah, maybe there's a place for it. This card disappointed me a little bit, to be honest with you, because I'm a big fan of Typal decks. I play a lot of Typal decks in Magic. And I love a good Lord, right? So in Magic we call this Lord, where 1 card comes down and just buffs up everything that it is similar to. And this is a really weird one because it buffs stuff that it isn't. It's quite bad. It's not a prince or a princess or a king or a queen. So if you end up building I don't think we truly have a Typal deck yet. Some
I agree.
Stuff's getting close, but obviously the more cards we get, the more you'll be able to build them and the more vile they become. I don't know whether you're going to want to run a card that doesn't fit the theme just because it bumps everything else up. And also it's 1 strength, arguably the least important number on the card, right? Like I'd actually take a willpower over a strength. And obviously a lore would be the best thing you could give it, but I don't know. I think it looks like chat agrees with you. First of 20 says, I think this card will end up being good. Stats have been very important. People running Cerberus and Kronk. If the meta calls to meet a certain strength or criteria, it could be relevant. Yeah, and that's what you were saying there with your princesses. They're not big enough in the minute to do anything. Whether or not 1 it makes them then do something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting point because we've definitely seen like a willpower. I can't think of the word now, but like 3 willpower versus 4 willpower is really big in this game because a lot of characters can only hit for 3 strength, and that 1 extra can be really helpful. But whether or not the characters that this is targeting need that extra help reaching that threshold, or if it's just not enough to reach it anyway, we'll just have to see what else we get.
The fact that this is rare and that goat is uncommon, they just know something we don't, or what? I don't know. Next up, a 3-costed uninkable 1/3 for 1 lore in Amethyst Arthur, Wizard's Apprentice, Dreamborn Hero Sorcerer with the ability Student. Whenever this character quests, you may return another chosen character of yours to your hand to gain 2 lore.
I want to know your thoughts.
I think it's really good. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of abilities that trigger on questing because basically you're saying put this in harm's way for XYZ, and if you can't put it in harm's way, then this is a dead card. It's why I'm not a huge fan of Yzma. It's why I'm honestly not a huge fan of John Silver. For the same reason. It's especially John Silver seems to be quest with this and then choose what's going to kill it. But if you can keep this alive, if you can stick this behind a bodyguard, or play control the board well enough that nothing's going to come in at it, this is insane. It's lore gain without questing. It's lore gain on the turn stuff comes out. I mean, the perfect example is you play this on 3, you play the goat on 4, and you're cooking, right? It's like 5 lore. You don't sound convinced.
I'm not convinced this is a good card yet, or maybe it's one that you play in your bounce deck. I'm not sure. Kind of for the reasons that you mentioned. I don't like when you have to quest with something in order for it to gain a lot of value, and in this case, it's gaining 2 lore because the being uninkable really hurts this card. If it was inkable, it would definitely be a lot better. It has pretty low willpower here, pretty low strength here, and also willpower to be to be fair.
The 4 would be a big difference, yeah.
And so I feel like this is a 3-cost card that you play and then you hopefully get 3 lore out of, and then it dies pretty much. And maybe that's good in a more aggressive deck where you don't care and you're just I'm just trying to get as much lore as possible. But I don't know. Other than that, you definitely need some protection for the card. And it's there. We have plenty of bodyguards, but I'm kind of gonna wait and see before I say that this card's anything special right now. It is a super rare though.
The thing is, I think, is that we say that it needs to stick behind a bodyguard. There currently isn't. I don't see the build that's bodyguards and bouncing. So yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'm just too hopeful for this one. This has got a nice. I think it's got a pretty good ceiling, but like you say, it's got to kind of stick around. But I can totally see it. A lot of people are asking us to talk about the art. I can honestly say the art is the top half of this card. All right, moving on.
No, I think it looks great. It looks awesome. I honestly find myself saying the same thing about every art piece, which might be why I don't touch on it very much, because I look at every art piece and I'm like, wow, this looks really good. And then it's that for every single card.
Yeah. It's like me and Liam talk about this a lot. I always say to him, unless otherwise stated, I think the art is great. Because I do. I don't have that much to say about it. I'm much more of an animation fan. If these cards moved for some reason, I'd have a lot more to say. But yes, the art it's always great. There's a handful of cards that I wasn't super hot on in set 1, and it's completely subjective, so it doesn't matter. It's all just great. It really is. I'll be honest with you, I would read the artists out, but because of the setup I've got, the card is just a little bit too small for me to make them out. But when I do a roundup video of cards, a regular video on the channel, I do always call out the artists because I think it is worth mentioning them. So all of these we've already talked about. Jake Barker, there you go.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a really cute style, but yeah, they're all great. We're not an art. Go and watch the Illuminateers if you want to hear more about the art.
Right. You guys missed that one about an hour or two ago.
Yeah. Next up, Prince John. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Prince John is an Emerald, 3-cost uninkable, rare card with 1 strength, 2 willpower, and 2 lore. He has Ward. He also has the ability I Condemn You that says every time your opponent discards at least 1 card, you can draw that many cards. He's also a Dreamborn villain prince. I love this card. I think it's going to make for some very, very fun discard decks. I don't know how good or bad that is for the community playing against a deck that forces you to just discard everything out of your hand, but Knowing that I can play this card and play a whole new world and draw like 15 cards in one
Do you know,
turn.
do you know what? People keep saying whole new world. I don't. I don't think that's the line. Like obviously that's insane. But honestly, this on turn 3, and you have forgotten me on turn 4
yeah.
is just
that too.
disgusting on its own.
Yeah, I mean, every single card that says opponent has to discard a card that, didn't see play before is all of a sudden like so much better.
First to 20 has just said the exact same thing. Him on 3 and forgotten me on 4 is going to be very scary. It is, yeah. He has Ward.
Yeah, so this is like a mini Cusco in a sense of like he's just going to sit there and I'm going to keep drawing cards and you're going to keep discarding them unless you have some sort of ability that, like board wipe or swords or something that's going to take him out.
Yeah, he's really good. Another 3-cost emerald and inkable. But this is the thing I don't. One thing I'm noticing here is that this emerald card does not go in the same deck as Bippity Boppity Boo. I don't think. Almost like this emerald in this set seems to have two very distinct characters, very distinct sort of characteristics, I guess.
Well, I'm happy to see that because, in the first set, we knew that it was going to be kind of a base set, like help us learn how to play the game. And each ink had its own identity, but I won't say there were a bunch of identities across like single ink colors. And so now we're starting to see, Emerald has bounce stuff. It has discard stuff. It has just the typical don't challenge into me stuff as well. Yeah. And I'm mentioning bounce. I actually think Prince John is almost like a counter to bounce decks because he wants you to discard cards from your hand. So people playing bounce decks are forced to either keep stuff on field where it's vulnerable or put it in their hand and hope that, I don't make you discard it.
Got bounce, I'll keep it on the field and therefore not get the value out of them, right? Like if your Merlins are only coming down once, you're not necessarily getting the value out of them that you should be. So this is definitely the sort of answer to that. It's interesting that he has 2 lore. Because I don't think I'd want to quest with this guy, honestly.
No.
Like he has ward and his ability is passive. He just sits there and makes all my discard stuff better, I think. Like it's nice that he has 2 ward, and if he's still there when you're about to win, you can just swing him and whatever, he gets you closer. But I interestingly think that this is one of those cards that you don't. There's only been a couple. I'm trying to think of another example. But this is a card that I don't necessarily want to quest with.
Yeah, it's a lot like Aurora to me. I have a hard time making myself quest with her. And especially Prince John being 3 ink to play already, there's a multitude of rush characters that can come down and immediately slap Prince John in the face. And, now he really didn't do anything because he doesn't have an enter to play effect. So definitely one that I think you keep readied for as long as you can, at least. There's Cinderella that can technically get to him, but that's a couple turns later.
Yeah, we'll see how that one actually plays out. First train says you don't want to quest with him, but the fact that he has it is amazing. Yeah, and like I say, like you find yourself with this down on board when you're at 16, 17 lore or whatever, then great, he gets you the win, right? But the fact that he can just sit there and just make all of your discard spells draw spells in a color that kind of needed draw, really.
Definitely.
And what's the one card that's come in that it's an emerald card and it says they discard, you draw 1?
Hypnotize.
That's they discard, you draw 2 now. Like it's just
there's Hypnotize and Sudden Chill, I think. Sudden Chill.
Right? So Sudden Chill. So Sudden Chill becomes Hypnotize, and Hypnotize becomes draw 2. And You Have Forgotten Me becomes they discard 2, you draw 2.
Yeah.
A whole new world becomes they discard 7, they draw 7, you draw whatever, 10, 11, 12.
7x, however much they discard.
Just gross. I love it.
Yeah.
Probably a $30 rare when the set comes out, I bet.
Oh, yeah. If you get any of these, keep them because he'll probably be kind of expensive.
Keep them if you want to play him, but if you don't, sell them straight away.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because like Lilo's sold for $30-$35 and they're like 10 now. So if you've got no interest in playing them, sell them quickly. Oh, we're moving into Market Watch. We're not there yet. We'll move on. Madam Mim. This is the finale, and I'm going to put it in quotation marks, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But this is the finale of the Sorcerer fight between Merlin and Mim. This is a 7-costed inkable 5/7 for 4 lore. Well, that sounds weird to say. I've only had to say it once before. Madam Mim, Purple Dragon, Storyborn Villain, Sorcerer Dragon, excuse me, with Evasive. And I win. When you play this character, banish her, or return another 2 chosen characters of yours to your hand. First thing I will say, the wording is clunky. Lorcana has clunky wording, and this is a clunkily worded card, as are all the Madam Mims with the banish her first. It's right. This is legendary rarity, so the highest rarity of the game. And this, I think, is one of those cards that has completely divided people on whether it's good or not. I've seen very few people sit anywhere in the middle on this one. And I'm kind of interested on which side you are.
Yeah, so I'll admit, when I first saw this card, I was kind of busy doing something else. So I glanced at it, saw it had evasive, saw it had 5 strength and 7 willpower and 4 lore, and I was freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just a better BLT Mickey. This is crazy. This is awesome. And then the more that I sat on the card, I was like, okay, but how good was BLT Mickey? He saw a little bit of play, but ultimately he didn't see much play. And the fact that you have to bounce 2 other characters when you play Madam Mim, and it being kind of late into the game, it feels a lot like a win more card to me. It'll shut the game out. Maybe you'll win a turn or 2 early, or really put the pressure on your opponent to have an answer. But I certainly don't think this card is crazy good or anything. I think it'll find a good spot in some decks, and sometimes it'll be good, and sometimes it's not, depending on whatever deck you're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Vader Llama. Yeah, if you don't have 2 characters in play, you would have to banish this.
Yeah,
well, you mean
that's really bad.
And that's the thing for me, is that the floor it's a dead card in your hand, basically, the floor of this card. Mm-hmm. Whereas BLT may well just be a big old stick, but at least you can just put him down. I think this is the top end of the bounce deck. I think it's maybe a 2 of in the bounce deck, but I don't, if you're not getting something off pouncing those characters back. I just think the tempo shift is too huge. Even if you quest with them both and then play this, you need to be... Okay, so in a deck that doesn't play much targeted removal, if you can quest with 2 things and be at 16 lore, play this, you're in a great position. But that's such an... that doesn't come up very often.
No.
So I think, most decks will play, at the moment at least, we haven't really seen much removal from set 2, because obviously the characters make for better reveals, right? We get a lot of the actions and stuff later on. We haven't seen much from set 2, but in set 1, if there is a removal spell in your color, you are playing 4 of them. Red decks play 4 Dragonfire, Sapphire decks play 4 Let It Goes. Emerald decks, for the most part, will run 4 copies of Mother's Knows Best, because it's all they've got, right? So there will be an answer to this card. So I don't know. I don't think I'm into it.
Yeah, me neither. Really.
All right, we'll move on.
Yeah. So the next card is Scar Vicious Cheater. It's an uninkable 7-cost Ruby card that has 6 strength, 5 willpower, and 2 lore. He has Rush and has the ability Daddy Isn't Here to Save You, that says whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready this character. This character can't quest for the rest of the turn.
I have them in a different order from you. We're looking at Li Shang.
Oh,
there we go. It's all good.
My bad. I'm looking at
They kind of came out the same
website.
day. It's good. And also, I'm really sorry. I don't think we have an English version of this card yet. So we're looking at a French one.
For Li Shang.
No, for Scar. You read out Scar,
okay.
didn't
Yeah,
we'll
sorry.
do
The stream is delayed, so I'm seeing old stuff.
Yeah, we don't. I don't think we have an English version for either of them, to be honest, because they came as part of a like a bunch of French reveals. That we have randomly got some of them on the app and some of them not. So the ones that were on the app, we were able to grab the English versions of them, but I believe at least at time of airing, we don't have the English version for these. So I apologize. So yeah, sorry. Just go over that one again real quickly.
Yeah, okay, so Scar is an unequal 7-cost Ruby card. He has 6 Strength, 5 Willpower, 2 Lore. He has the keyword Rush and the ability Daddy Isn't Here to Save You that says whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready this character. This character can't quest for the rest of this turn.
Okay, so I don't think that translation is quite correct because I think it specifically states when you banish when this character banishes a character on your turn.
Okay.
Which is a difference that we should mention. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, if this gets challenged into, it doesn't ready.
That would be important.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know why they keep doing it dirty to my Scar, man. Like,
yeah, it's so sad. He's just. I mean, he's essentially Maui, but like he readies when he gets damaged. And now that we see Bippity Boppity Boo, I would just kind of rather play Maui and then Bippity Boppity Boo Maui and then
just bounce Maui back.
Put Maui back down. Yeah,
I mean, obviously you're in those colors, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like because it's expensive and uninkable, it's not a good Maui, and because it's sort of conditional as to whether it kills stuff, it's not a good Be Prepared. So just play Maui and Be Prepared, and those two cards cover what this one can do.
Yeah, and like that too. If you're gonna play a bunch of uninkable 7-cost cards in Ruby that is there to remove stuff, you play Be Prepared instead.
I think so. And maybe there's more. We haven't seen much from Ruby yet in set 2, so maybe there is more of a character focused Ruby build where this is better than Be Prepared. Because remember, Be Prepared gets rid of everything, right? And in a control deck, that's fine because you might have, a damaged Maui on the board. You don't really care. So maybe we see more from Ruby that is where it is more focused on just like high strength stuff. But as it stands, I don't think this is very good.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, and then last one we got was Li Shang, a 5-costed inkable 3/6 with 2 lore in steel. I only have the French one here. Let me look at it again. When this character quests, characters you control gain evasive until the end of turn. Does that sound right? Yep. Okay, cool. High school French. Smashing it out at the park again. I think this is an answer to a problem we haven't seen yet. I hope this is an answer to a problem we haven't seen yet. I don't currently think this is particularly good. Other than it just being a 5-costed 3/6 for 2 lore, that's not terrible.
Yeah, there's, we see evasives kind of sneak into certain meta decks every now and then because they're evasive and, you can get a little bit of a lore advantage, but like they pretty much get answered most of the time. And like there's definitely a lot of games that have been lost because you weren't expecting an evasive and something gets played, or maybe you don't have the removal to get to it, or like, steel doesn't have any hard removal, so maybe you only have a grab your sword and the evasive has 3 willpower. So in a case like this where steel runs into that problem, it certainly helps because then all the steel is really great at challenging things, and so now you can challenge the evasive stuff and do more damage. But it does feel like a pretty niche card. We saw the Ruby Captain Hook that never saw play, that gave all evasives reckless, I think. It was a 7-cost card, and it never saw play. I think Li Shang's a better version of something like that, where it gives you access to evasives if you need it. It's a little bit cheaper. It's also inkable, which helps a lot.
Well, the
He has a pretty
Inkable,
solid body.
yeah, I mean, it's just a good, like, if nothing else, it's a decent body, and the Inkability basically makes it a sideboard card. You know, it's a silver bullet for an evasive deck, but that's, you know, at the moment, like what you've just described, there isn't an evasive deck. There will maybe be a thing that pops up in a deck, you know, like you say, occasionally, even some of the control decks will run Goofies or whatever. But the sort of Emerald Ruby evasive deck that, let's be honest, before the game came out, we were all kind of worried about. I remember evasive on paper being a bit broken, which is why I feel like we have to take all of these opinions of spoilers with a pinch of salt, because I remember beforehand we were all like, oh my god, what the hell's going to deal with this evasiveness? And now it just isn't a thing, right? Like, so I think it's an answer to a problem that doesn't really exist. But worst case, yes, it's a 3/6 for 2, which is fine. 6, it's good, really. 6 is good. 6 is a good on the ass, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, there's all the reveals, I think.
Yeah.
Since
I think we hit all of them.
Since this time last week. What did we? I've got to bring my notes up. What are we doing next?
So next comes the Main Street Market Watch.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna have a little. We're gonna have a look at the cost of stuff.
See what kind of looks like when it comes to affordability, and I'm sure many of us know that it's not looking very affordable for most.
It's
unfortunately.
Weird. Like some stuff's gone one way and some stuff's gone the other, and so I do think it's worth taking a moment to talk about. I'm move us over to this screen. So first of all, I've got here the just the booster box, the first chapter booster box. Now we can talk a little bit just in general about sealed products and whether or not it's worth it at this point. Here, the cheapest one we've got is at $384 plus 5 shipping, so $390 US, which seems insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're trying to play Lorcana, I don't see any reason for you to pay the prices that you really can only find online to open stuff. You are 1,000 times better buying singles, as is usually the case in any card game, but especially with this, like, it's just, I mean, even as a collector, you're probably just better, you know, buying the singles for whatever it is you're trying
at
to
this
look
price.
for.
I think the chance of you not getting the value of the box out of singles is quite possible, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think the EV probably isn't there. I mean, unless you pull, and like think about it this way, and we'll look at these in a second. Most of the enchanted cards are less than $300. So even if you pull an enchanted card, you're probably still losing money on this box, unless you pull some other really good foils or legendaries or really playable cards.
You've got to pull 4 good legendaries, right? Like, and that doesn't happen. You'll get 4 legendaries in a box. If you don't, you're very unlucky, I think. Well, I have seen some 3 legendary boxes, but whether or not they're good legendaries, you know, for every Rapunzel you see, you're seeing a Takar or a Gantu, right?
Yeah.
So don't like, they've come down a little bit since October, since September, excuse me, but yeah, for the most part, I wouldn't. One thing I will say regarding sealed products is that, like, all that we hear at the moment is, oh, this reprint and that reprint, and this is a restock, but that's not a restock, and this is a reprint, and this is meant to be happening here, and this is meant to be happening there. As a manager of a trading card game store, we are not getting any Lorcana in October. 99% chance we are not getting any Lorcana in October. And now I'm specifically talking about a game store in Ontario, Canada, right? And that's all I can speak to. But like, if there's a week of October left, if I'm getting something, I know I'm getting it already. If something is being delivered next week, I have an invoice sat in a folder at work ready for it, because that's how these things work, right? Very occasionally they'll ring up and be like, God, you never guess what's turned up. But for the most part, like, I know what's coming next week. So I don't think we're seeing anything in October. That was originally meant to be... So was originally meant to be like Wave 2 was like a few weeks after launch, and then that never happened?
So originally, Wave 2 was supposed to be when retail release was back in, was it September 1st? Retail release?
Yeah.
I think that's when the second wave was supposed to come. And then that didn't come. And then we were told October. And, it's not looking like anything's coming for October.
Yeah.
And then now, I mean, basically after that, we've just got the second set,
Well, that's
to
it. Yeah.
hopefully see more
And
stuff.
then this reprint that was originally Q1 2023 has now been pushed forward. So I wonder if they're actually just rolling it all into one. And if there was any stock left over, and if there is a reprint, it just gets bumped into one big delivery that all turns up, and but also, even if there is a reprint, I can't see it being mega numbers.
Yeah. I don't see them absolutely flooding the market where like you can just find it at any Target or Walmart that you want to go to. I think it'll still be relatively similar where it's going to hit stores and it's going to be gobbled up in a week, if not sooner than that. And
I wouldn't be surprised if any like this reprint or whatever does show up and they're like, oh, we've got another 10 boxes for you or something like that. Like that's the kind of number I would expect. And to be honest with you, if I get that kind of numbers, half of it will go to packs for League, and half of it will probably crack for singles. Like because I've got 50 people wanting a box. So I can't. So selling 10 boxes just pisses off 40 people, right? Like there's no way I can sell products in a large enough quantity to make everyone happy. So what I can do is give everyone a pack or two every week and open singles so that they can buy the pieces they need for decks, right? And it usually we're kind of just sort of spreading the wealth, basically.
Right. And I think that's the best thing, honestly, for the community right now, because like you have a lot of people who the only way they're going to be able to play is if they buy singles. So hopefully like injecting more singles into the market might bring prices down a little bit. And having packs to give out for Lorcana night is going to keep people coming back and trying to play Lorcana.
Yeah.
And like I've personally seen in my local area a serious decline in people playing the game because our store never had any packs to like hand out to people just for showing up.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best ways to get people to keep trying to play the game, even if they're only buying starter decks or, they're buying the singles for starter decks or whatever it is to come actually play the game and open some packs. I think that's what's best right now, unfortunately.
I think so as well. And like we've noticed a little dip in the last couple of weeks because we kind of rationed ours out. So we could have we rationed out 2 boxes a week so that we could crack. And we were hoping it would get everyone 2 packs. Those 2 boxes would, but we've actually had like 40 plus people show up every week, which is insane. Like this isn't a boast. I genuinely don't really understand how it's happened. I don't think we've done anything particularly different from other stores who have used this model, but for some reason it's just really hit with our regulars and new people as well. We get a lot of kids come in, which is awesome. But the only thing I can think that we do differently, honestly, is that we hold it on a Saturday morning as opposed to most places I've seen do it on a weeknight. And I think maybe that Saturday morning has attracted more of a sort of new family kid focused crowd. But who knows? But anyway, we kind of rationed it out thinking, oh, by the time this runs out, we'll have had some sort of reprint, restock, whatever you want to call it. We haven't. So the last 2 weeks, we haven't had packs available for people who've come to play. And we've noticed a little dip. We've been down into like the sort of mid 30s. But it's still, numbers are great. And we're really happy, but we have noticed a few people trickle off, and we're out of products now. Like that's it. We have, other than the few singles in a. So basically, anything like $10 and up, a single will put in like a glass cabinet at the front of the store, and anything under that goes into a binder that people can go and flick through. And we're pretty much down to the singles in the binder now, and even those, it's not a good binder of singles. Page 1 is Ariel on human legs and like all that stuff that just is not played, right? So so we're really starting to the well has completely ran dry for us now, so we're desperate for anything. So who knows what we're going to get. But even saying all that, I still don't think you should go out and spend $400 on a booster box. Spend $400 on the game, but go and buy $400 worth of singles and you'll build a good deck.
You could build one of the top decks in Lorcana fairly easily with $400 and have a much better time playing the game, at your store than cracking a box.
Yeah. Let's move on. We were going to take a look at the promo cards that are listed. Yeah.
So I think this is kind of fun and interesting, just looking at what the different promo cards are looking like. One of the things that I noticed is all of the event cards that we see, at least on TCG Player, are lower in price the further away the event was. So like the Gen Con Mickeys have gone down. The Goofies are a little bit higher than that, and then the Donald Ducks are a little bit higher than that. And then one thing that I think is interesting is with the store promos, Mickey is so much higher than the other ones. I think just because like he's more played, or maybe just because he's Mickey Mouse. And
I think it's both. Honestly, I think it's like he is the most played of the three. Like it's a good card. Detective Mickey, you know, it goes into every Sapphire Ramp deck. It's a good card, but also yes, it's Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, not much to say on these other than I think the store promos are pretty reasonably priced. Like I'd pay $5 for a Yzma, you know, if I couldn't get my hands on one.
If you've not got ways of getting one, yeah. I think one thing I wanted to bring up with these was something we chatted about off camera actually, and that is the perceived availability of these perhaps is shifting the prices of them a little bit. In as much as there are more of the store promos currently listed online, and the idea, a lot of people might have the idea that there are more of these available because these have gone to every store. But actually, if you do the math, there is probably about as many of the store promos out there as there are Musketeer Mickeys, we think.
Yeah. And so like even like I can understand maybe why the Goofy and Donalds might be a little bit higher, them being not within North America. But yeah, there's probably just as many, if not more, Gen Con Mickeys out in the wild than there are the actual promo ones when you consider, you know, the number of stores that got OP kits and the number of promos in those OP kits. So I do find it really interesting that the Mickeys are so expensive over everything else. And like you said, it's really interesting to see that perceived bit where, you know, it was a range of 3 days in which a bunch of people received these Mickey Musketeer promos, versus people have been staring at these OP promos for weeks now. You know, some people getting some every week, some people getting them at the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. But the fact that you had to be in Indianapolis on a certain weekends to get the Musketeer one, as opposed to the other ones, like say you just have to be at your local store if they're playing it. So but yeah, numbers wise, I think you know I have one of all of these. You know, and like that's it. The Goofy's still on the way and the Donald Duck is still on the way, but I've I swapped a Mickey for a Goofy through the Lorcana HQ trade, and then I bought a Donald Duck because like I thought, well, I might as well just grab one to have the set of 3. Whether or not I keep picking them up, I don't know. Now they're losing the stamp at the bottom of like where they're from. They lose their appeal a little bit to me personally. So I think it's a good change for people, but for me personally, I'm like,
That's something that I'm interested to see because I personally really liked that it was the stamp of wherever they were at the bottom. It just made them a little bit, I don't know, more different than just having the normal promo stamp. And I agree with you. I think it's good that the other promos won't be region locked. They'll be easier to access. But at the same time, that's also going to make them less valuable. So like it's going to be easier to collect, but people who care a lot about, you know, like getting a Gen Con Mickey because they know it's going to be rare and you had to be at the event to get it. You know, they're not going to be probably as valuable as they could have been otherwise.
I think so. And I'm also, I have no problem. Like I do understand why they've done it, and I understand why most people are happy about it. But I have no real problem with a promo being difficult to get and expensive. Like that's fine. It's a promo. I don't care. Like if I can get it, cool. But you know what? If they print one and it only goes to a 1-day event in Australia, and there's 500 of them, and I never see one, then never mind. You know what I mean? It doesn't fuss me. I certainly don't have the D23 ones and never will. So I'm never going to have a full set. So it doesn't fuss me that much.
I think when you look at the fan base of people that are trying to collect literally every single card of Lorcana that gets printed, you know, it's a very small group of people. And I feel like any of those should know, regardless of any card game that it's
Yeah.
going to be, that's going to be costly, and
Yeah.
that's going to be a lot of money, and it's going to be really
difficult and
hard.
expensive, and
Yeah.
that's not a Lorcana thing. That's a collecting thing, right? That's it. It's
Yeah.
literally that's it. Yeah.
The only thing I care about is affordability and accessibility for players who are playing the game with cards
100%.
that you need to play the game, and that's not what these are. You don't have to use these cards to play the game if you don't want. So I'm kind of with you. I think it's cool that more people will be able to get them. Maybe I'll have access to more promos, but yeah, if I couldn't, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. We move on, talking about difficult to get and expensive. We'll take a quick look at the Enchanteds. I don't know if there's that much to say here. Since we prepped this before, I've had a good look through all of them, and pretty much everyone does a different line through the last couple of months. So I don't really know what there is to say about Enchanteds as to whether, like, first of all, none of this is ever financial advice, right? Like, I feel like we have to say that. If you've got the money and you want things, buy them. I'm never going to tell you whether they're going to be less next week or more next week.
I'm not going to tell you to invest or not to invest. You do what you want.
Yeah. These are cool. Do you have any of these? Do you have an Enchanted?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to pull 3 enchanted cards.
What?
The first one, yeah. All of them were out of a box. I know a lot of people say that, you know, they maybe they're different pull rates and different things, but I've just seen them packs out of a box.
Yeah.
The first one was an Artful Rogue Mickey Mouse. That was at Gen Con. At
that's right,
2 or 3 in the morning, like by myself in one of the open areas where the starter deck tournament was at, and I was trying to record the video, so that was really fun. Then later, Sneaky Buffalo from the Glimmer game came up. He was fortunate enough to find a store that didn't have a lot of people like buying up product just in a rural area. Asked if I wanted a box for MSRP, and I was like, sure. So he brought that up to me. We cracked a bunch of boxes, and there was a giant Tinkerbell one in that, so that was very fun to pull in the shop, and we screamed, and everybody was playing the Magic pre-release looked at us wondering what was happening. And then most recently I was opening a box for a feature video that's coming, and I don't want to give away which one came in that one. But there's another one in there that I got as well that I've kept. The other 2 I've sold. I sold to finish my play set of cards so that I could actually play the game with all the expensive Rapunzels and Maleficents and that kind of thing. But
that's interesting.
And honestly, I don't regret. Like we're talking about prices. The prices haven't really budged since I sold them. Like maybe they've gone up $30, but not enough for me to be like, oh man, I should have kept these, you know, and sold them later.
And the prices have fluxed a bit over the like I say, some of them seem to be crazy high at Gen Con weekend, and all I can assume that is that like 2 of them sold for a couple of grand or something, you know, and it just sort of threw that average out. But yes, for the most part, they've kind of just done this. The Spirit of Winter's always been the highest. It's arguably probably at its lowest point it's been for a while now. But it's always been much higher. I assume that's just the Elsa effect, honestly. Like it is a playable card, but it's, you know, it's as playable as a few of these, right? Like, you know, Carefree Surfer and Tinkerbell see just as much play in just as many tier 1, you know, high tier decks. So I don't think it's a playability thing.
I agree.
Yeah. I did originally. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get all 12 of these, obviously." And then in opening about 20 boxes, and that's not for me. Like that's in opening ones, you know, being around people who've opened them, and then also opening a few for myself. Like I've opened 2, 3, I think I did myself, and then opening ones for the store for singles, and you know, and other things like that. I didn't see a single one in 20 boxes.
I can't believe that, honestly.
So in the end, I bought a Carefree Surfer because it is probably the coolest one for me personally, art-wise.
It's my chase.
Yeah, it's that or Tinkerbell. Obviously for you, look at behind. Oh, you can't quite see it on camera, but it's all stitched stuff behind you.
Yeah.
But between that and Tinkerbell for me personally, and this was the one that was available. A friend of mine pulled 2, that one and the Bell, and he was like, I'd like to keep the Bell. I'm like, cool, I'll give you the Surfer for whatever it's worth. And I paid him. So I did it for $300, which was 300 Canadian, and I give him $50 a week for 6 weeks. Like I bought it on layaway, and and did that. So I'm happy, and I've got the one, and that's it now. I like it. That's it. It's up there in a crystal case, and I probably will get it graded just to keep it nice. I'm not really fussed about it value wise. I'm just happy to say that I've got one. far from the 12 I originally thought I would get, but there you go. All right, let's move on to some actual singles. This is the sort of stuff that we think you should be buying and could buy and be happy about it. And this is so our first one is Giant Tinkerbell, Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, I guess. Currently, she's sat at $19.95 plus $1 shipping, so $20 basically for Giant Tink. I think that is a perfectly acceptable price for this card, personally.
I think it's good. I would personally like to see prices in general fall a little bit for the game. I know that I'm privileged coming from a Pokemon background where I could buy a top tier deck for $150 and that's it. And to do that, a lot of these staple cards have to be like $10 or $5 at maximum. So I would personally like to see it fall a little bit more just so that it's more accessible, mainly because I haven't been in the physical TCG space all that long. It's been since like last November essentially. So I guess close to a year at this point. And like, I still remember when I was looking at games and like what games I wanted to try to play, I would see prices on some cards and I'm just like, I have to pay $100 just to have a play set of this card. Yeah. And like as a casual player, somebody who was trying the game out, new to the scene, that just was not like something that I could justify at all. I kind of laugh at that fact now because of the amount of money that I have spent on Lorcana at this point. But just like for that reason alone, I'd like to see the prices go down. In regards to like this being $20 compared to all the other super rares, like, yeah, I absolutely think it deserves to be as high as all of these. All of the others are for sure. It's a very strong card. We see it, and
I suppose if you compare the point I'm trying to make, perhaps is if you compare this to the next two cards we're going to look at, I think this seems then worth the $20, right?
Yeah.
Because if we look at the next one we're going to look at is Cuzco, who's just a rare. And he's $14 currently. Had a recent little dip. Was up to around sort of 17, 18. Only a week or so ago. So it's actually come down a little bit recently. But I personally still think this is a little overcosted. I think this is a little expensive. It's a weird one, like you were saying before. It's a good card that doesn't see play.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people will concede that Emerald is probably the best budget ink because you can get a lot of cards that do really good things for relatively cheap, right? And even Cusco, it being less than $15 a card, that's still a lot of money to throw away, but it's nothing compared to a Rapunzel that we'll look at in a second. But yeah, like it's, even though they are good cards and Cusco is a really good card in its own right in a vacuum, it just doesn't perform as well as some of the other decks do. And like you'll occasionally see Emerald make it into, top cut. Maybe there's 2 to 4 decks that are running Emerald. But I don't know. It's just like, it's not consistently good enough, at least in the most recent versions of the meta, for me to warrant spending like a ton of money on a Cusco card. Yeah. I would rather see him a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. I pulled a playset of him in the stuff I opened and was already very keen on Emerald. So I was more than happy to kind of build out that Emerald Sapphire High Five deck. But honestly, even in that, I am just as happy playing Mad Hatter that's a 30-cent uncommon as I am playing Cusco, honestly. Because they're just doing the same thing. They're questing for 3 and then dying. So this one you get a little bit more value out of it dying perhaps, but I don't know, the card draw of Mad Hatter is still pretty nice. The ward is good with him, but I don't quite understand why he's still as high as he is, considering how much these prices do seem to affect the meta, right? Like, seem to be affected by the meta. You do see stuff that is played in high-end tournaments be more expensive than anything else. Cusco is not played in high-end tournaments. I enjoy playing him in my deck at locals, but I know that deck is not a tier 1 deck, right? Like it's not a tier 0 deck. It's fine, does okay, and it's fun to play, and it's very consistent. But it's consistently okay, which is good enough for a high-end deck, right?
Well, that's something that's kind of crazy. Like, I just looked real quick. If we take a card like Be Prepared, which is also a rare card that's run in Ruby Amethyst constantly,
Yeah.
tops tournaments all the time. Be Prepared is less than $10 a card.
Yeah.
And even Stitch Rockstar, being a super rare, is basically $10 for the card, and it does very well in tournaments in Amber Steel. So, like, why Cusco is more expensive than any of these cards, I have no idea. I don't think it's worth. I don't think it's more worth than that.
It's not like there's 60 listings of it as well, so I don't even feel like it's there's been a market manipulation on it. I don't even feel like it's somebody's bought them all out and has just stuck them up, for more. So I don't get it. Let us know in the comments if you have any idea as to why Cusco is as expensive as he is. Last one that I do understand why it's so expensive is Rapunzel gifted with healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a powerhouse of a card. We see her played and topping tournaments all the time. Just a super powerful on playability, heals your stuff up and lets you draw cards after healing it. She's a legendary, so she's already really hard to find in packs and open up, and $60 hurts. I hate seeing that number when I think about people that haven't found any and want to try to play her in their deck, because spending just $120 for two of these cards, she's pretty vital for some of these decks too. Like, I tell a lot of people in my videos when trying to teach people how to deck build, like, usually a card serves a purpose, and so if you don't have that card, try to find at least one of the roles that card plays and find another card that can do that role. And there's really not a good card to replace Rapunzel with, because she's just very, very strong.
Yeah. The problem with Amber is that it lives or dies on its top end, I think, really. So to play Amber properly, to play Amber well, or to play, in an enjoyable fashion, you need 4 of these. You either need 4 Rockstars or 4 Carefrees, depending on the kind of deck you're building. Some decks use both.
Both,
yeah. Like, it's an expensive color. Honestly, even Rockstars have come down, but Carefree Surfers are still up there, right? Like, that's still a pricey card. Still,
I think so. Yeah, it's like $40.
Yeah, so it's Amber is an expensive deck to build. I have an Amber Steel Songs deck, which is basically the meta version, but there are 2 Rapunzels and 2 Carefree Surfers, because that's what I have. Like the rest of the deck is all there. But the top end is just 2 of each, and because of that, it's much less consistent than you want it to be. When it pops off, it's incredible, but I'm not spending, like you say, I'm not spending $200, which would be $300 where I'm from. On 4 cards that in a few weeks' time, that's a box of 204 cards, whatever it is, 200 and something cards. So unfortunately, that's where that deck sits right now. Still very good card, kind of worth it, I guess. But it's creeping up as well. It's going up and up. It's over the past couple of weeks, it's hit back. It hits this sort of 60, this sort of top end of 60. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, relatively, I understand why it's the most expensive card, but again, would like to see prices in general come down.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to take a look at in Market Watch is one of the cards from set 2, Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard from Rise of the Floodborn. This is going to be the start of your weekly reminder to not spend $13 on a common.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Don't buy the pre-sales, people.
No, if you God, even if you don't think you're going to get product, don't spend $13 on this card.
Yeah, if you're not even trying to build the deck or whatever, and you're like a huge Winnie the Pooh fan, and like you really just want a copy of this, send me a message. I'll send you one. Right? Like, there will be no end to how many of these are available. Most likely, it's going to be in the starter deck. Although I don't think we know that. But probably this is a very starter decky card. I think. It's just just a big body that it becomes the top end of a starter deck, I think. Great art, really great art. But
beautiful, awesome.
Right click, save as, print this out. Just don't spend $13 on a common.
No,
that's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, there's your Market Watch. we're going to move on to another section that we're going to try and do every single week as well. And it's called You Made Me Ink.
Yes. So You Made Me Ink is basically going to be a section where either myself or Jonti will showcase a card that specifically hurt us this week when playing, either just ruined a game for us or was played against us and there was nothing we could do to come back. So I went to Miami TCG this past weekend. I played 4 rounds in the tournament. My last round was played against an Amber Ruby deck, which just so happens to be a not great deck into my Amber Steel deck that I was playing. And I was pretty much obliterated by Hades, Lord of the Underworld. For those of you who don't know, you can probably see it on screen. Hades, Lord of the Underworld, basically lets you recur cards back into your hand so that you can play them back onto the board once they're put into your discard. And Ruby Amber just did a great job. Like, my opponent had multiple Hades, so he'd play out 2 Hades, and then he'd pull something out of his discard that was really good, and he'd play that. And then I'd do my best to wipe the board, and I'd wipe the board, and then he'd play another Hades and pull out 2 more Hades and play more. And at one point, the board state was like 2 Hades, 2 Rapunzels, and a Stitch Carefree Surfer.
Oh.
And yeah, and at that point, I was just like, I concede. There's nothing that I can do against this board state. You just keep bringing stuff back. And so really good card for that reason. Really fun card to play if you're interested in playing a deck like that. You just basically run as many Hades as you feel comfortable, and you play kind of big willpower stuff. And, you know, you play it, you quest with it. When it gets removed, you bring it back with Hades. And the most important thing is making sure that you keep at least 1 Hades in your hand so that you can play it and then pull the rest of the Hades back onto the board. And as many times as your opponent manages to wipe the board, you just refill the board with Hades, and it can get really oppressive really quickly.
I think it's a bit of a sleeper, this one, really. It didn't see play at the beginning of the meta, I don't think, as much as it does now, at least. But I think the good things about it is that it's a card that gets something back, but it's also a good target to be got back, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's you know what I mean? Like, even if there's nothing else down there, just bringing more of him back is not terrible. And I think that's where its real strength comes from. It's it just, like you say, you can start getting, it's almost an engine once it starts getting going, right?
Yeah, and it's like he's only quests for 1 lore, and he only has 3 strength. But when there's 2 or 3 that you literally cannot keep off of the board, and every turn you're playing something to remove it, and it's disrupting your stuff if you don't. It makes you use a lot of resources you don't want to use, and you're also not playing all the other cards in your deck that are, you know, going to be really good for overwhelming your opponent. So, yeah, I would agree. Kind of a sleeper, but we're seeing a little bit more of it picked up in the meta, but it's overall pretty good.
Yeah, it definitely fits. It fits really nicely into that Amber Ruby deck that's kind of come out of nowhere in the last week or 2. Yeah. Ruby Amber, did I play against you, Brandon? Sounds like a game I've played a day or 2 ago.
I don't remember. I don't remember the guy's name at the tournament, so you would probably know me. You'd probably recognize me if it was at the tournament.
He looked like that.
It was at Miami. Yeah,
he did. He looked kind of like that, but also a bit like this.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, probably not on the ladder or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good fun card, but yeah, it's interesting to see it kind of creep up over the last few weeks, really, because that's the thing that always really interests me about the meta, because I understand, you know, cards come up and then other cards that can answer them come up, but like, I feel like this card has always been as good as it is. So it's interesting that it's just took us this long to find where it fits, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Being an uninkable, I think, has a part to play in that. You know, people are really wary of how many uninkables they put in their deck and spend a lot of time trying to optimize their decks on which ones they run and which ones they don't. Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I build a magic deck, a 60-card magic deck, I will run 24 lands. Lands are your energy. Lands are your resource. So basically, I'm what I'm telling myself there is I'm happy running 36 uninkables. Right? Because 36 of my cards can't be my resource in that deck.
Right.
Well, occasionally characters can tap for mana, but for the most part, I'm happy running 36 uninkables in a deck of Magic. So I find it really interesting that that number would blow a Lorcana player's mind, right? Like, I don't know, you 12, 16, 20 at a real push, and only if some of those uninkables are gaining you ink some other way, I kind of feel you can count Detective Mickey as not necessarily an inkable, and that sort of thing. But yeah, there's got to be a difference, because otherwise people would just be playing more on inkables. But yeah, it's interesting to think that in Magic you'll run with about a third of your deck being resource, and that seems to be impossible in Lorcana. I don't know. All right, so we move on to our sort of final section.
Yeah, so like I said earlier before, went to the Miami TCG convention. They had a tournament. It's actually the largest Lorcana tournament to happen to date. And honestly, it was super fun. There were a lot of people there that I've talked to over socials and, we're friends with, talk to daily, which is always fun to meet those people. I competed in the tournament. I went 1-2-1, which probably doesn't sound like a great record because it isn't, but it was my first major ever. So I was really nervous going into it, and I told myself if I didn't go 0-3, I would be really happy, and I didn't. So I was pretty proud of myself. It more or less proved to myself that I can compete in a competitive capacity. I just need to practice more and dedicate a little bit more time to it versus content creation if I wanted to. Overall, honestly, the tournament was really nice. The PPG who put the tournament together did a really nice job at running the tournament. Everything was really smooth. I don't think there was really many hiccups that I knew of, at least when I was there. I dropped probably a little bit earlier from the tournament than I should have. The whole time I was trying to run Swiss calculators on what record people needed in order to make it into top 16 or top 32. Yeah. And I think if you made it into top 32, the prizing was like 2 or 3 Lorcana packs. So the way that I had run the Swiss calculating, I knew that there was a chance that X2 and 1 players might bubble into the top 32. And being in round 4, being 1-2-1, I knew that I would have to win out for the rest of the tournament to get there. And I was having major FOMO on the actual convention because the tournament started before the convention floor opened. And I really wanted to meet the artists. Yeah, I really wanted to meet the artists and go see the convention floor. And so I was like, do I want to play 4 more hours of Lorcana for potentially 3 packs? Or, play another hour or 2 and lose or draw another game and then drop then? Or would I just rather drop now and then go spend some time with the artists and talking with other people that I hadn't been able to talk to yet? Which was kind of funny because I talked to some other people who did stay for an extra couple rounds. And, let me back up. After I had dropped early and gone and looked at the convention and stuff, and I saw what some of the other players were doing, which was staying in the tournament and playing it out, I was like, maybe I dropped a little too early, and started kind of having FOMO about that and, wondering if I made the wrong decision. But there were some people that did stay, and they were like, it was funny you say that, because while I was in the tournament, I was thinking to myself, man, I really should have just dropped earlier. Yeah, and gone down and played the thing. Or gone to the convention. So it seemed like there wasn't really a great option, but
yeah. I can understand the dichotomy you had, and I think probably it isn't because it's 3 packs, right? I think it's probably more so that it's quite a nice and neat thing to be able to say that you were top 32 in the first ever one, right? It's not 3 packs. I'm sure you could have gone to the convention floor and just bought 3 packs for $40 if you wanted to, and, so it's more the fact that it's just it's quite a neat way to be able to say top 32. It sounds good, right?
Yeah, Yeah, so the tournament went really well. Like, all of the opponents were super awesome too. That's something that I noticed, that everyone really got along. It was a really cool space. Like, everyone was pretty social. The place wasn't really too cramped, I didn't think, which was really awesome. But when we would sit down, like everyone kind of in the same general area was talking to each other, asking where everyone was from. When people were losing games, like nobody was getting really upset about it. It was just kind of like you lost. Like I guess there was good sportsmanship for the most part during the whole tournament.
And do you think that was in part because pricing wasn't like pricing was good, but it wasn't like a huge cash value, right? Product was pricing, right?
Yeah. I don't know that played much of a part of it, to be honest with you, because even though it was pricing, it was a lot of pricing. Like 2 cases worth of Lorcana is insane to me, and especially being somebody who pretty much already has as much Lorcana as I need. Even if I had won with the 2 cases, like maybe I would have kept a couple boxes or cracked some with some friends just because I had won them. But like I probably would have just gone to some of the vendors and seen who wanted to take it off of me so that I could,
I
get some cash off of it.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I suppose everyone there probably have a good deck, right? So I suppose this late into set 1 and at a tournament at this higher level where people will have a deck they're happy with, I suppose 2 cases is actually $2,000, $1,500. I suppose if you want to think about it like that. Yeah, I didn't really make that comparison, but yeah, I guess you're right, really.
Yeah.
Product, the prize was product and a photo with all the artists and the artists signing every one of their cards in your tournament deck for free. That's cool. If that's something you're interested in, that's cool. I know some people don't particularly enjoy signed cards. I do, but I know some people don't. But if you're into it, that's a good thing. Yeah.
So that segues me a little bit, signing cards, into after dropping the tournament, I went down and spent a lot of time with the artists, getting to know them, and like between that and hanging out with my friends that I just talked to online was the highlight of the convention. Everybody was phenomenal when talking to them. They were really tired when I went down that day because I think it was like 3 or 4 o'clock at that point. And I didn't get to see the crowds that were originally there, but apparently some of the artists signed hundreds of cards that morning. So like, I think it was Juan Diego who did the Steamboat Mickey. He had people showing up with literal like a binder worth of Steamboat Mickeys and having them sign. So
and they didn't put a limit on how many they would do, eh?
No.
Other than charging for them?
Right. Like, so those are $40 signatures just for the signature and it not to be personalized. So those people, like, I mean, the people who had lots of people come up signing stuff, I mean, made a lot of money, which is really, really great. But I'm sure you can imagine after a full day of just signing cards all day for people, some of them were really tired, but like they were all super awesome. I told myself I wasn't going to buy any playmats when I went because I didn't need them. And I've come home with 5
can we see them?
Yes, I would love to show them off. So one of the people that I got to talk to was Luis Huerta, who I absolutely loved. His was the first. I don't know how well you guys can see this or not.
Give me one second. I'm gonna see if I can. I mean, keep talking, but I'm gonna see if I can make a better. Better looking version of it.
I actually don't know how. This was the playmat. One of the 3 playmats that he did.
We can't see. That. You have to hold it like in front of your face, basically.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll hide my face.
And up a little. There you go. Perfect. Bit higher. There you go. Perfect. Can't see you at all now.
Okay, so Luis had 3 prints that he had done, and this was one of them. There was like a blue dragon, there was a green dragon, and there was a like Spyro themed one, I think. They were probably the most vibrant out of the 3, and they were the first ones that I saw that was like, oh, I have to get these. And it was like I mean, it was super awesome to get to talk to him. The artists were so like, I guess personal, you know, like it didn't feel like they were talking to me because like I was standing in front of them and they were stuck at the desk. But I had Luis sign this one. He did a cool thing where I was the first person to buy this playmat from him. So when he signed it, he put the little one on it, which is pretty cool. And I'll go ahead and say now, I don't have a photo of all of the mats, but all of them are really cool. And if anybody sees them and wants them, like message me and I'll figure out a way to get them to you because the artists, you know, would love to sell them to you guys. And
that's awesome.
I think they're worth buying.
I've made you big now, so you should be able. There we go. You should be able to. The whole screen is just you.
Okay.
So you should be able to you should be able to show everyone.
The next one I'm going to show off is one that Ari Welly actually just gave me because some of the artists were trying to collect their cards when they got there because in some of their regions, you know, it's really difficult to find Lorcana or it's not even there at all. And so Ari Welly, one of his cards was the Lantern, and I was having him sign a foil Lantern. This was his playmat. Wow. And he was telling me about how he had found all of his cards that he had done except for a foil Lantern. And I just happened to have a foil Lantern on me. So I offered him, I was like, hey, I'll just give this to you. You know, like it's your card. I really appreciate what you're doing for Lorcana. Like your art's great. And so I gave it to him and he was like, well, just take a playmat. And I was like, I can't just take a playmat from you. They're $40. And I think it's important that artists get their money.
Oh, sure.
So I split it in the middle, gave him $20 for the mat. It looks super good. I believe this mat was from, I'm trying to find all the names. Christian Romero, I think. Oh, wait, no, never mind. This is a different mat. This is one of the, I don't know if you guys remember, the Illumineers did a Kickstarter a while back where they had some artists.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the other designs for it, right?
Yeah, this is one of the other designs that they put together. This was actually my number one pick on design that I wanted to get made. So I was really happy to see this one get colored and brought to life. So that was fun to get. Shout out to Liam and Aaron for hooking me up with that one. We only have two more. This next one was from Christian Romero. This is also a super detailed and awesome playmat as well. All of them had great play. Like I say all of this, all of them had phenomenal playmats. And if I had the money to buy all of them, I would have. These were just the ones that I managed to walk away with.
They're beautiful.
But this one was Christian Romero's. And then this next one is my absolute favorite. So Cam Kendall is the artist for the Captain Hook that I was blessed enough to be able to reveal myself. And so I had him reveal I had him sign my Captain Hook card. I'll go ahead and show you guys this now. This was real fun. I
awesome.
Had Cam Kendall sign that one. And I had seen some people take blank white playmats and bring them to some of the artists and say, hey, I don't care what you want to draw on this, but just sketch something on it and, figure out what it is. And I'll buy it from you. Yeah. So
look at that.
Anyone remembers, Cam Kendall really loves gnomes. And so when I told him that he could just sketch anything on the mat, he was like, anything? It doesn't have to be Disney related. And I was like, anything, whatever you want. And I thought this was super cool to have, a completely authentic sketch from Cam Kendall. I got to spend a lot of time with him and talk with him just over some cards. I was actually kind of laughing at myself. I was a little nervous talking to the artists because I didn't really know what to tell them or what to say to them other than I really like
hey, you're cool.
the art. Yeah. And so I showed a little bit there, and many times I would go up to Cam's like I would have stuff to tell him or stuff that I wanted. Oh, is it?
Oh, you're crazy
really blurry right now?
Yeah.
Oh no. Let me see if I can fix this. I can't. I might have to
switch over to Discord transitions.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, the camera could not cope with all the awesome art. I didn't know what to do.
Oh no. Let's see
I made myself blurry, and then we'll just match. Oh, he's back and looking beautiful. There you go.
Okay. So It was there were a lot of times that I would run up to Cam Kendall and talk to him about something or have him sign something. And I was supposed to ask him about something else, and then I would run away and then come back to the booth immediately. So that was kind of funny. But I went to Miami TCG Con saying that I was only going to get a couple cards signed. I loved I'll just show them off here. I loved the Forceful Duelist Captain Hook.
Yeah, that's great.
So I got that signed from Marcel Berg, which there's actually a super interesting story behind this one. I was chatting him up, trying to find stuff to talk about, and I was telling him that this Captain Hook was was my favorite card out of the D23 cards that were printed. And he told me that he really I think he's happy with it now, but for a while he wasn't very happy with the card or the art, which was just crazy to me because I loved it. I thought it was amazing. And I asked him about it, and he just told me, he was like, he never felt like he got it exactly the way that he wanted to. So it was kind of crazy for me to hear these artists talk about, some of this art that we all look at and think is so beautiful. They're their own worst critics, I guess. Yeah. And doing things like that. But I did that. I did the other Captain Hook. Also had him sign Carefree Surfer because I love Stitch, had to do Stitch. And then Simongalisa Sabaya did this really awesome thing on Rockstar Stitch where he gives Rockstar Stitch a little guitar.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that scribbles on, so that's really cool. And then
can I just say, by the way, how you flawlessly pronounced their name as well. Didn't even trip over that. I would have really struggled with that.
Believe me, it was a lot of practicing before I met him, so that I didn't just butcher it and actually knew how to say it. Marcel Berg thought that this was really cool too. I didn't even connect this. I just brought this because I had trades and stuff in it. But I was like, wait a second, I have the binder right here. I can just have him sign it. He thought that was really cool. He hadn't seen any yet.
That must be the weirdest thing, I feel, as an artist, to see something in the flesh like that. Not just like a print or something, but an actual product, there must be something really, I don't know, ethereal almost about it. Because he drew that a year ago maybe, and it was he probably just looked at it on a screen in Photoshop or whatever they use, right? To then a year later have somebody hand you this actual product that with it on it. I don't know, it must be the craziest thing, I feel.
Well, and that's the reaction he had too. I pulled it out and he was like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "Is that official? Is that Ravensburg?" And I was like, "Yes." And so I handed it to him, and he literally took it from me and just stared at it for a while and opened it up and looked through it, and it was so cool. He was saying he hadn't seen one in the wild yet, and so it was so fun for him to see one right there in front of him and it not be on a card or not be across the screen. But those are the ones that I paid just for the artist signature, and then after talking to all of them and meeting them, I realized they were all too cool to not have signed something just for personal reasons. So I did a really dumb thing and left my foil binder at home while I was packing last minute, which I like to get my foil cards signed. So I spent a couple hours running around the convention hall trying to find vendors that had the foil cards that I was looking for to buy them to get signed. So eventually, after doing all of that, I picked one card out of every one of the artists to get signed. I won't show you all of them because
go for it.
You all probably don't care about all of them, but I will highlight one. Andrew Trebold was the artist for Magic Mirror, and anybody that knows me knows that I have an interesting relationship with this card. So it was really fun. I got a picture with him, and we got to inform him about the meme and the fun that Magic Mirror has caused and what it means to me, and it was fun to explain all that to him. And then while I was there, all the artists are great, but another really great artist that I met was Julia Riva, which I'm sure drew or illustrated Sudden Chill.
Sudden Chill, so which is awesome.
I decided while I was there, I would go ahead and have her personalize personalized one for you that I'm gonna end up finding a way to send to you. But she
That's
was such a
amazing.
sweetheart. She was
Thank
such
you
a
so
sweetheart,
much.
and absolutely love talking with all of them. And I wish I could like do a better job of explaining how awesome they all were and how personal they were. There's a couple prints that like I want to see and, like get. So
So
Kendall
I
Hale.
Sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go. I'm going to ask you something once you finished up. But yes, you have something from Kendall to show as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's two things from Kendall to show. Kendall illustrated the Artful Rogue Mickey Mouse. And I got to see a really, really cool signing that he did for the card. He did like a shadow design or a shadow signing on the card. It was really cool to see some of the Enchanted signed. And I think when I went by one of the vendors and saw the card that was signed, I want to say they had listed it for like $10,000 or something crazy. But that was really cool. And then he had another. So the artists weren't only doing their cards, they were also selling other stuff. Like Cam Kendall was selling this print of this gnome.
That's cool.
And so I just got one of those that were signed. Louise had his book full of illustrations and then also other playmats. Cam Kendall had a print that I think was called Drawing in Church that I thought was really cool. Some of their stuff didn't come till late. So like on the first day it wasn't there and then the next day it was. I don't know if these came in late or he hadn't pulled them out or what. But he pulled this out, and I thought it was just such a cool drawing. And again, one of the reasons why the artists were so awesome is they would share personal stories about their art. So he was telling me about this print, and he said basically what it encaptured is when he was in church growing up, he would get really bored listening to the sermon, and so he would draw to like get through the sermon. And because he was a little kid, he would draw all of these things that you see in the top of the screen, where there's like Jurassic Park, there's World of Warcraft, I think like Predator, and like a couple other things that are there. These like things that people probably wouldn't like to see him drawing in church. And in the print, you see all of the kids looking at his art like with amazement, like this is so cool, and it's all coming out of his head. And then when you look at the adults, all the adults are looking at him with this like
Yeah, his
mean
mom
or like
especially
mad.
doesn't look happy, I guess.
Yeah. And so like I don't know why, but I just like that was such a cool story to hear him tell of like his childhood and like the things that he experienced, and like you really get to see the artists come through on their art. And I told him, I was like, after hearing the story, I feel like I have to buy one of these prints. So I told him when I got home, I would buy one, and I have. So there's that. And then one other story to tell real quick about the artist that blue playmat that I got from Louise. He told a really awesome story that he might have told on the Illuminateers already. I don't remember, but I'm going to tell it again. His dad and him went on a vacation to Walt Disney Animation Studios, I think, and like toured that. And his dad told him that you're not like, he wasn't working for Disney at the time, but he believed that one day he would work for Disney. And he would, reach that dream. And then COVID came around and his dad passed away. And then shortly after that, he was able to work on Lorcana and watch Lorcana come to fruition. And so I don't know exactly what in the blue playmat is like the personal thing behind Louise, but I could tell just talking to Louise, like he would get teary-eyed talking about the art and his dad, and like the influence that his dad had, and now he's doing this thing that his dad told him that he was going to achieve. So like it was really cool to like, this is why it was so awesome to talk to the artists, because they shared these like really cool things about themselves with the rest of us. And Louise mentioned that the blue playmat, like the characters on it, is like this personal project he's working on right now. I think it's going to end up being some sort of comic book isn't the right word, but like something along those lines. It's going to be some sort of like narrative story that he's putting together.
Right.
And
like a graphic novel?
Yeah, I think graphic novel was something that he had mentioned.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that because the playmats ended up looking so nice. And if, like I said, if anybody in the chat wants any of the playmats, be sure to message me. I'll give you the socials for all the artists because they deserve to be followed, and
100%,
any of the merchant stuff that they have, I'd love to help connect people with it because it's awesome stuff. It's quality stuff. And
it is, yeah. And, you forget that they're like, they're hired for a job and they do it well, but it's so much more than that a lot of the time, and I can't imagine there's any sort of artist in the world who deals in that kind of art, in that sort of storybook, that sort of, sketch, pencil and paint style that wouldn't be happy to work for Disney, right? Because they are the gold standard, and they have been for all of our lifetimes, 100 years now. I remember I haven't had that much experience with the artists, unfortunately, but I remember meeting Lauren Walsh at Gen Con, who did the art for Prince Ali in set one. And I just kind of wandered over and was like, can you sign this? First time I've ever gotten an artist to sign a card for me. And she just broke down into tears, and I started crying. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, this is the first time I've ever seen one. And it was just like that, just that idea of having this physical thing that she'd been given that was something that she created. And it was a nice moment. Two strangers just crying at each other over this thing, So it's so much more than a gig, right? Like they put their heart and soul into this, and it's so great to see it come to fruition and everyone be so sort of passionate about it as well, and so sort of welcoming and embracing of it. So I have a couple of things to ask you about Miami just before we wrap up. First of all, are you in this picture? It'll take a few seconds for it to load up for you.
A couple seconds.
But it's a big picture of the big room, basically. I can spot Franz front and center in the middle from Travis Tavern, right in the middle there with his specs on, concentrating. But I've scoured up and down it, and I can't see you. I don't know. Were you wearing that stupid bucket hat that you wear?
Yes. So
I should be able to spot that.
So you can. I just saw the thing pop up, and I was going to say, depending on the round that this was taken, I'll know where I was at. But I'll have you know, the bucket hat was asked for. It was requested by multiple people that I wear it. They're like, you have to. It's a signature for you now. So from now on, whenever I'm at conventions or tournaments or whatever, it's just going to be a part of the look.
Wow.
At the very left side of the picture, all the way down at the end of the table, you can barely see the hat.
I got you.
You can't see anything else. But that's
right
me.
There.
Yeah, I think that was round 1 of the tournament. But yeah, I'm technically in the picture.
I could spot that hat a mile off now you've pointed it out. Like, where's Waldo? Awesome. And and then also, like, in general, because obviously Miami TCG Con, it was a TCG Con. This wasn't a Lorcana event. Lorcana was a part of it. So what kind of, I don't know if you can even give like a percentage, but what kind of, how much of a presence did Lorcana have there on a whole, like even outside of the tournament? Because obviously this room is full of Lorcana players, right? But outside of that, in the sort of the artist alley or the stalls and stuff, was there much of a Lorcana presence?
I'd say there was a solid, like, I mean, depending on how much weight you want to give the artists, I'm trying to picture it in my head and giving it more of a percentage of how much of the room was taken up by Lorcana stuff, not so much presence. But like room wise, I'd give it a solid like 40% of the TCG or the convention was Lorcana. And then most of the rest of it was Pokemon or like a couple other little things here and there. And so like it was a lot. There were a couple booths that had Lorcana singles that they were selling, and then over where the artist alley was at, basically it was literally like the artists all the way down, and then directly across from where Luis Huerta was sitting and Marcel Berg, there was Peter Raimundo with all of the like Stitch stuff and Disney stuff that was up there as well. So I don't know if you would count that as Lorcana or not, but it was Disney as a presence.
It's probably why he was there, right? Like unless he's done art for Pokemon or something that I don't know about, right? Like he's
When he even had a, it wasn't as big as some of the other binders at the other place, but he even had a small binder of Lorcana cards that were sitting at his table that I guess were probably there for people to like pick stuff out if they wanted him to sign stuff, which I am very excited about, by the way. For some reason, I had missed that he was going to be there. And I'm glad that I saw him because I ended up getting a Stitch Funko Pop that he's going to illustrate something on. And then I gave him, I pulled out all of the Stitch cards in the first chapter and handed them to him. And I was like, pick one. I want you to illustrate something on the card and send it back to me because I had to leave in like 30 minutes to catch my flight. And so he picked out the Stitch Abomination card, and he said he has this really cool thing that he does where he makes it looks like it's raining with like a silver Sharpie or something.
Oh, okay.
So he took down my address, and he's going to send me all of that stuff once he gets done with it, because he had a bunch of, I could see he was like flipping through a like clipboard of all the different
projects, right?
Of all the different stuff that people was asking him to do. And so I'm very excited for that to come in.
That's awesome. Hopefully you'll be able to show it off here in a couple of weeks, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be fun. To you.
All right. So the last thing we've got to do then is we ran a giveaway on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other name.
Yeah, I got flamed for doing
Didn't
that
you just
today.
Yeah, we were quite harsh with you. I didn't think it was that bad, but yeah.
Well, Twitter. See, because I always call it Twitter anyway, but I was like, I'll be accurate this time and just call it what it actually is. And everybody hated on me for it, so I learned my lesson. I'm not doing that again.
All right. So we are on Twitter, or X, or the artist formerly known as Twitter, or whatever you want to be calling it. We did a giveaway. All you had to do was share the tweet. So I've actually took down. I've got like a million tabs open for this today. I have took them all down and put them into a random number thing, and it's gonna poop out a name, I hope. So hold on. It's not there. Where on earth is it? This is great. Just talk amongst yourselves for a second. We've done so well. It's all gonna fall apart in the last minute.
This is where we need the live band to just like fill.
just to tune up and run away with it. Where are we? There it is. Okay, let's have a look. And then if I click that, it'll pull out a name. Yeah. Okay. It has. Oh, it's there at the bottom. Look, oh wow! Well, I'm going to save on postage, I guess. The winner is called Lorcana.
Oh, so, there you go. That's good.
so it means we haven't got to mess with customs. So congratulations, Lorcana. If it's not me, it's rigged. It's not UK balled unless you've moved very briefly. So Lorcana, I'll message you on Twitter as well. And make sure you get it. But you win yourself a pile of goodies. It's some Elsa sleeves out of the box. It was the only thing the store still had in stock when I decided to give something away. I was like, what have we still got to give? And then a set of the Fab Four. So we have a Goofy Daredevil, a Minnie Mouse Always Classy, a Donald Duck Boisterous Fowl, and a foil Mickey Mouse True Friend. And these are all signed by characters at Walt Disney World. I got these done when I was there on vacation a couple of months ago. And then the last one, which is the good prize, the bit that you should be happy about, is just a Gen Con Mickey Mouse, as you saw before, going for over $100 on TCG Player. So basically, just giving away about $130 worth of stuff, and some commons signed by Floridians on their gap year. So, but they'll get over to you. I will message you on Twitter to figure out how to get that best to you. But yes, thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I think that's the end of the first one. We got there, buddy.
Yeah. I think nothing burned to the ground, so I think we did okay.
And we ran about half an hour over how long we thought it would. So I don't think that's terrible either. So seeing as that was this week in ink, what is your next week in ink look like?
So next week in Ink is going to be probably connecting with my LGS. You mentioned the Donald promo. I also have a Donald promo coming in, and I got the message today that the guy that it was being sent to has it, and so now I have a Gen Con Mickey to trade off for that. And then probably tell them about Miami in the tournament and hang out there. Other than that, it's back to the content creator grind and, start working on more videos to put out hopefully soon. I took a break off last week so that I could practice for the tournament so that I didn't just wash out. So
and you're playing in paper each week as well, right? You have locals to go to, yeah.
It kind of depends on how busy the week is. If I'm really trying to get a video out, sometimes I'll skip. But there's 2 league nights that I have, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. The Tuesday one is at the LGS that gets way more players, but it's about a 45-minute drive away from me on a weeknight. And then the other one is the local one, which we're lucky to have 4 people there, including myself some nights. So sometimes it's hit or miss. So I'm definitely going to the Tuesday one tomorrow just to play with some people and hang out. And then we'll see if I go to the one on Wednesday.
Awesome. Yeah, I play every Saturday morning at our store. I wrangled the shifts so I don't work, so I can go in and play. And I think I'm going to put together a version of the Ruby Amber deck that's been going around because I have all the Ruby stuff and I've just never played it. I've got 4 monstrous dragons. Let me show you real quick because before we go, I've just finished this before stream. I'll be right back.
I don't know where he's run off to. Quick, guys, let's talk about him while he's gone. In chat. I also can't see him, which is the fun part. You guys are learning stuff about the back end of this.
I kind of expected you to be singing or something.
I can't. No, I'm not going to sing in public just because. This
is the thing I'm least and most proud of, I think, in my life. And this is a 1,000 slot binder. So it holds a playset of the first chapter. And if there's a sleeve here, it's because it's in a deck. So what's that second there? Oh, that's the Singer Aerial. But I've just finally got round to sorting it all out. And look how satisfying it is. That's those 2 Rapunzels that I don't have. But look at that. When it's full.
Yeah. Oh. I feel the same way.
It's a thing of beauty.
I have a playset binder, but it's just rares and above because I didn't want a huge binder like that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's therapeutic to just flip through the binder and it to be completely full of cards on every page.
It's so satisfying. I'm definitely not going to do this for sets moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I can't. I spent way too much on this. But I would like to still do a single set. I'd like to still do a one-off set. But yeah, next week I'll report back how I get on with Amber Ruby. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know. I'm not doing anything special. I'm probably bringing my Amber Steel deck because I don't feel like constructing another one.
I feel like mixing it up, but we'll see how it goes. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Brandon, for joining me. You can find me right here because this is my channel. And I'm on Twitter at Lorcana_Inkwell.
Yeah, and you can find me at B224YT on Twitter, not X. And you can find me on YouTube at B224, no YT, just the @B24.
It'll be the first link down below as well. So,
yeah, that's pretty much it.
There you go. So until next week, that was This Week in Ink. Bye.
Bye, guys.